Hello, and welcome to the DSM Wealth Podcast, sponsored by Rebel One Financial, who is here to revolutionize how people feel, think, and experience retirement solutions. I'm your host, Susanna DeBaca, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. On this show, we explore and redefine our relationship with wealth, what it means, how we build it, and how it can help us live with purpose. Each month, I talk with leaders across finance, academia, entrepreneurship, and philanthropy to uncover practical insights on creating prosperity and meaning. Today's episode, Giving While Living, Making an Impact with Your Money Today, focuses on philanthropy and invites us to rethink what generosity looks like right now. Too often, giving is framed as something that we plan for someday, but thoughtful philanthropy can create real meaningful change during our lifetime while also strengthening the legacy we leave behind. So in this conversation, we're going to explore how generosity, when aligned with purpose and intention, can enrich both the giver and the community in powerful ways. And help us unpack how giving while living can be both impactful and sustainable, we are joined by an exceptional panel of experts who bring deep insights from philanthropy, law, and fiduciary stewardship. So I'm pleased to introduce them now. And the first person I get to introduce is Kristi Knous. Hello, Kristi.
Hello, Susanna.
Kristi is the president of the Community Foundation of Greater Des Moines. With just decades of experience and leadership in philanthropy and community development, Kristi oversees more than $1 billion in charitable assets and has been instrumental in shaping bold collaborative visions, making her a trusted voice on how generosity can drive lasting impact. So welcome, Kristi.
Thank you.
Joining us is Mike Deege, who is a partner at Wilson, Deege, Despotovich, Riemenschneider, and Rittgers, and one of the region's most respected estate planning attorneys. A fellow of the American College of Trust and Estate Counsel, and consistently recognized among the best lawyers in America, Mike brings unmatched expertise in helping individuals thoughtfully align their values, assets, and legacy. Welcome, Mike. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
And we're also pleased to welcome Carla Hughes, who is the Vice President and Senior Fiduciary Trust Officer at Bankers Trust. With more than 17 years in financial services and a rare blend of legal compliance and wealth management experience, Carla offers practical client-centered perspectives on structuring generosity in ways that are both strategic and deeply personal. So welcome, Carla.
Thank you, Susanna.
We are very fortunate to have these experts with us today to help us better understand how we can live a life of generosity and meaning, starting right now, while making a difference that truly lasts. I do want to make the point that what you're hearing today does not constitute legal or financial advice, and you should check with your counsel and your financial advisors for that as you make a plan. But let's go ahead and dive in. So first, I just want to hear from each one of you. What personally drew you to the world of philanthropy? And why is this concept of giving while living so meaningful to you? And Kristi, let's start with you.
Oh, good. Thank you. You know, I started my career working in children's hospitals, and my position was solely funded through philanthropy. But I knew what important work it was. So when my path kind of led to the Community Foundation, it was just a perfect passion fit for me because I already had the deep understanding of the value of philanthropy and charitable giving to causes people care about. And when I realized that I could spend my livelihood, my professional career helping people make those connections, it was just a perfect fit. And I've really never looked back. It's been a wonderful, wonderful way to spend a career.
Well, we're glad that you chose that. Mike, what drew you to philanthropy through your estate planning work?
Probably two items on it, Susanna. One, as a firm, we pretty much specialize in wills and trusts and probate and estate planning issues. And you get into the discussion with your clients and trying to determine what they want to do, and are there any charitable giving types of things they want to consider either during lifetime or perhaps at death too. So that's probably one of the primary issues. The second one was we started talking about tax issues, and as you know, there sometimes can be very worthwhile tax advantages, income tax, estate tax, gift tax advantages to gifting, and that also turned me toward looking more at charitable ways that could be used to try and deal with a client's tax issues.
Mm-hmm. Well, excellent. We're glad you're in the field too. And Carla, what about you?
Thank you, Susanna. I grew up with a mother, so I'm going to credit my mom. She was always stepping in to help in our small rural Iowa community. So volunteering at the church or as a Girl Scout leader, we even did some volunteering together at the Blank Park Zoo. So I feel at an early age, I was instilled with the importance of serving and charitable intent with one's time or treasure. And that's just inspired me to personally volunteer to serve on various nonprofit boards in my community where I live in Dubuque or statewide with other nonprofit boards. And then that just pairs over nicely with when I get to work with clients and talk about supporting nonprofits that are meaningful to them.
Well, excellent. So you guys all came about it sort of through different directions, but let's dive into the question of just how to start giving. Our viewers will be at a variety of different levels, but if someone wants to start giving meaningfully, regardless of their wealth level, right now, what would be the most important step? And Kristi, I'm going to start with you again.
We have a couple of ways to get started. One is called a seed fund, and it truly is to start sowing seeds of giving. And so a donor can start that with any amount, even $1,000 can start a seed fund, and then you commit to build it up over time, sort of as your commitment to grow your bank account. It's a commitment to grow your charitable giving account. And so we have a lot of donors and young families who start in that way. But we also have a giving guide. And I think that, you go to the book, Start With Why. And I do think that it helps to really hone in on your why, your passion around giving, and just the areas of interest that you have and even why you have those. And walking through an exercise like that can really bring clarity and strategy. And I think it also helps you say yes in bigger ways and sometimes say no in ways that, maybe you're not having the impact that you could if you were more strategic with your giving. So there are a couple of tools that we usually help donors get started with, and those are seed funds and our giving guide.
That's excellent. Mike, what about you, maybe from a legal perspective? How do people get started?
Well, I think, during the estate planning process, you should be asking whether or not they have any charitable intent, because as you're working on their documents, it's extremely helpful to determine if this is a person that is interested in charitable giving while they're alive, or are they more interested maybe in charitable giving at the time of death. So we can talk about certain tools that are available during life and certain tools that might not be available until after death. And I think once you determine one, if they have that charitable intent, maybe the next step for them is, where do their passions lie? What charities are they interested in? And to at least start the process. If they aren't giving, maybe start the giving process on an annual basis, and consider not only giving money, but perhaps giving time, maybe donating some of your time as well. That will get you into the charity. You can determine then if you're happy with the direction the charity is going, and then determine on how beneficial you want to have the charity become.
What would you add, Carla?
To echo points that Kristi and Mike have both made, Susanna. First, it's really identifying the why, the cause, and doing some research around that to know what aligns with your values. And then secondly, I'm always working with clients often is just a budget. Because a lot of people, especially if they are just getting started with thinking about they want to give to charitable organizations and what that can look like, helping folks get their arms around what their cash flow looks like so they feel comfortable with their giving plan.
Well, that actually leads really nicely into my next question. So, Carla, we'll just stick with you. How do you help clients, whether they're getting started or they're farther along, balance this desire to give today with the need to actually protect their long-term financial security? So, how much can I actually give? I don't want to run out, or how do I stagger it? What kind of advice or a process do you go through there?
Thank you, Susanna. Yes, exactly. Going back to having a plan. So whether it's myself or one of my colleagues, we're talking with our clients and really getting honest with them about what is their desired standard of living and expectations now, and also in retirement, and try and envision what that looks like, because that will help distill what their cash flow needs to be. We have tools to be able to do a financial plan, and then we can perform it holistically. And we're going to look and incorporate tax efficient strategies and planning where it makes the most sense, working with a client's CPA and attorney, such as Mike is often the case. Our clients often will use the qualified charitable distribution as from the RMD of their IRA. So, and then back to the point Mike made earlier, if someone doesn't quite have financial security today or don't have that excess for giving monetarily, talking to them about starting with giving their time, because that is a valuable commodity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. So you brought up some tools. I'll turn to Mike. What are some legal or structural tools? I know you'll give us example, but I'm thinking donor advised funds or trusts, charitable bequests. Like, what do you find most used by individuals and families who want to give strategically now?
Sure. I think one of the first things I ask is, again, if they, from a financial standpoint, are able and desire to do something while they're alive, there are certain while alive tools that we can use. Some of those are examples, maybe just an annual gift, if you will, a donation to the particular charity that's involved. There are many charities also that have what's called a charitable gift annuity that they can sell to the individual that will provide an income stream to the client while they're alive, and then at death it stops. That's another effective tool that I see used a lot, and I think one of the most flexible tools you can have is your donor advised fund. They are tremendous tools that can be used not only during lifetime, but you can give to that same donor advised fund in a bequest under the terms of your will. So those are probably maybe three of the most efficient, most popular types of tools that I see used while somebody's alive. There are also other tools, and they're more exotic ones that deal with maybe charitable remainder trusts, charitable lead trusts. They all are good tools to use. Somebody can create their own foundation, but then you're getting into some of the more complexities, not as used as the three that I talked about earlier, but certainly tools that can be decided if it fits the particular circumstances that you have.
Well, and I sort of think about when I started out, younger in my career, a lot of these terms sounded very intimidating to me. So for viewers who are watching and they hear charitable trust or donor advised fund, these are structures that your attorney or your financial advisor or your philanthropic advisor will help you navigate, and they'll become easier to learn over time. They're just names for different kind of vehicles.
Yep.
So
very
Kristi, let's talk a little bit about, you work with so many donors at the Community Foundation, so many generous people. What really distinguishes donors who make a lasting, meaningful impact in giving today from those who give in more transactional ways or who wait until they're gone to make any kind of gifts?
Well, all of it's important, right? But we like to say we move from transaction to transformation. And so with those donors that are maybe more transactional, they might be meeting some immediate needs. And certainly that's important to our food banks and our homeless shelters and all of those things that make great sense. But if you really want to make transformational change, there's more strategy to it. Oftentimes we're working right alongside partners like Mike and like Carla on the screen to make a plan, a giving plan for that donor, both now and into the future. And I just think that we see a lot of our donors getting really curious. You mentioned volunteering, to really engage with those organizations at a deeper level and think about it in the long game format, more like a marathon than a sprint when it comes to really making the impact that they can make with small or large giving. Again, it's all important and it's all needed.
Mm-hmm. That's excellent.
At Revel One Financial, we're on a mission to revolutionize how people feel, think, and experience retirement solutions. I'm Cindy Pierce-Carrick, head of marketing at Revel One Financial. Every day, our brand ambassadors can and will run beside us and remind us that we can and we will embrace our cheetah spirit, agile, nimble, and unstoppable. With innovative retirement solutions, best-in-class service, and a 49-state platform, we help financial professionals and their clients step boldly into retirement and have fun doing it. So go ahead, find your cheetah spirit, run with it, and unleash it. To learn more, visit revel1financial.com.
Well, so now let's get a little bit more real. I'm interested if any of you can share, without naming names, examples of a client or someone you worked with who really embraced this giving while living philosophy and what changed for them or the community. Carla, anything pop to mind?
This is a great question, Susanna. Thank you. And I really thought about it, and I wanted to share an example of someone that I was previously well acquainted with, who gave a very large sum of money to build a new building at the university that was her alma mater. And that university was so near and dear to her heart because she had shared that she'd come from a family of very, very low income, little resources, and this university sought her out due to her scholastic ability and talent. And she really felt, this was turned her path on her successful career. But by giving this money during her lifetime, she was able to see the construction of this building, all the great technological features that were provided there, and interact with students or see the impact on students using the building and equipment in real time. And I just have remembered that for many, many years.
It's very special when people really can sort of say thank you and provide meaningful gifts to something that made a big difference for them. So that's a great example. Mike, what about you? Do you have an example you could share?
Sure. I had a client that had a pattern of giving generously every year, and not just to one charity, but multiple charities. And I had suggested to him at one time that he consider using a donor advised fund, primarily because a couple of reasons. One, he was able to make the contribution and get the income tax deduction for the year the amount was transferred to the donor advised fund. But then he didn't need to necessarily decide at that point in time who all the charities were that were going to be benefited. And that's when he decided to bring other family members in and help through the decision-making process. Because it wasn't necessarily the same charities every year, and he'd maybe increase to one or decrease to another or add a entirely new charity. So it was a great way to not force the family to have to make a decision by December 31st of each year, but also then make the contribution, get the income tax deduction, and bring the family into the equation as well to kind of get them from a mental standpoint used to the sessions where they would try and decide how much and what charities were to benefit. So I thought it was a great way to kind of get the family involved in the whole process as well.
And use vehicles that give you options later. So I love that example as well. Kristi, I know you probably are filled with examples, but what's one that stands out to you?
I am, but I love what you said, Carla, about being able to see it during your lifetime, because I've seen donors who thought they were going to do something after their lifetime, and they actually flipped it and they did it during their lifetime. And that joy of seeing the charities receive those contributions, it was just such a meaningful milestone in their life. But I also love those examples when you don't necessarily have a donor that knows exactly what they want to support, and when we can make the connection, it just lights our days as staff. For example, we had a couple that had identified they cared very much about supporting veterans, and they cared very much about animals. Had no idea that there was an organization called Puppy Jake that connects veterans with service animals. And the minute that they heard that they could support an organization that meets both of those passion areas for them, I mean, it was just a match made in heaven. And it's really fun to see those things happen too, when you can make the connection. Sometimes people know kind of what they want to do, but they don't know who does that here or who does that well. And it's when you can make those connections, I think, that we really see the lights go off for people, and it's really meaningful.
That's wonderful. Now, a lot of what you guys have talked about are charitable institutions, but obviously you can be giving to family members or to friends with some advantages through your lifetime. An example I'll give is I talked to a dear friend of mine who, after her husband passed and she became solely responsible for philanthropy decisions, decided she would give the amount that she is eligible for from a tax perspective to a very large number of nieces and nephews. And it was just such a wonderful and unexpected surprise to them. And she was delighted in being able to help them and see what that could do for them. So there's lots of organizations and people you can give to. But let's talk about family now then. For, what advice, I guess the question is, what advice do you have for families who want to integrate philanthropy into their legacy planning, especially when it involves children or multiple generations, either direct giving to them with wealth transfer or to organizations? Let's start with Mike.
And again, I think in terms of giving, we oftentimes talk more about charitable giving than necessarily giving to family members. But I think some of the same rationale applies in that if you give some money to nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, children, etc., you can also see how they use that money, which might give you a clue as to what you might want to do in your will or your trust that disposes of the rest of your estate. So I think some of the advantages you get in giving while you're alive to charities apply also to giving money to individuals. Now, there are certain lifetime exemptions. I won't necessarily go into those because that will get into a discussion of some of the tax aspects of this, but maybe a later podcast can relate to those as well. But I think my point is that I think you can gain some of the advantages through giving to children while you're alive as giving to charities while you're alive as well.
That's excellent. Kristi, what kind of advice do you have for families?
We have seen the gamut here. Everything from, a grandparent setting up a fund for the grandchildren to give out of, where they have to do research and they take site visits and go visit the charities and actually present their suggestions to the grandparents every year for the grant making out of the fund, to, every child gets so much that they get to recommend out of a donor advised fund. I just think there's so many ways to go about it, but the younger you start, the better. And again, I think knowing your why and expressing that, like, why are certain areas really important to the parents or to the grandparents? Some of those family stories just haven't been told. And if we can capture those through some of the activities that we do with families through our personalized giving services, it is such meaningful conversation that often gets lost. And so it's just an honor to be able to facilitate those meetings.
Mm-hmm. Carla, what examples or advice do you have?
Family meetings, so multi-generational meetings, if it's feasible for the family dynamic, and a lot of times it is, and what comes out of those meetings can be so meaningful and helpful. So if the family has a yearly meeting, just to review their giving plans, identify core values, what charitable contributions or other giving plans they might want to think about the next year. Our world and state and local needs are often changing. So reevaluating this on an annual basis often makes sense. And bringing in children, young children in the discussion. Kids can even talk about maybe they want to give part of their allowance if they get that, or some part of a part-time job. And then they can really see what, and feel a sense of ownership of giving. So, but if a lot of times those yearly meetings or family meetings together can be very beneficial.
That's terrific advice. So we could just talk about this all day. As Mike said, we probably need episode, 20, 30, 50 on details. But we have limited time. So I've got a lot of wonderful takeaways, but I want to hear from each one of you. Just what's kind of a 30-second takeaway that you would like to leave with our viewers of what we've said today? And Mike, let's start with you.
I'd say the biggest thing is start giving early and get the family involved in the process.
That's wonderful. Carla, what's your advice?
Determine, identify, and act would be my 3 steps. Determine the causes that are important to you, and identify organizations that support them. Do your research, and then act. Reach out to folks on the board, existing board, or former board members or executive director of those organizations, and have a conversation.
Excellent. Wonderful. Kristi, what are your takeaways?
I think just that your giving matters, and it doesn't matter the size. It matters that you do it. And, we're not going to have a strong community if we don't have strong charitable giving. And I just think it's important to commit to that and commit to the long term and make some real transformation in the causes that you care about.
Well, this has just been fantastic. The takeaways that I really gleaned from the 3 of you experts is that you can give while you live. You can make a meaningful impact now. You don't have to wait. And there are many ways that you can do it. But first, know what's important to you. You guys talked about your passions. You talked about values. You can give time. You can give your talent, your insights. You can also give your treasure or your resources. And there are many vehicles that can make it easy and efficient for you to give now. It can sound complicated, but there are many advisors, from your financial advisors to your attorney to your philanthropy specialist, who can help you navigate the complexity so that no matter what you want to do with your resources, you can enjoy giving now. So thank you so much to our exceptional panelists, Kristi, Mike, Carla, for your insights. And thank you, audience, for tuning in to this episode of the DSM Wealth Podcast, presented by Rebel One Financial, who is here to revolutionize how people feel, think, and experience retirement solutions. For more information about Rebel One Financial, visit rebelonefinancial.com. Tune in to our next episode where we will celebrate the women redefining what leadership, prosperity, and purpose look like today, exploring how women are reshaping the financial landscape with clarity, empathy, intention, and strength. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.